Hey everyone, I'm your average guide Sahil Gogna. Welcome back to another video. For past couple of weeks, I was getting a lot of questions from you guys related to a permanent residency here in Canada, the process, and can you apply if you are residing in Quebec, and a lot other questions. So I thought, why should I answer if I can invite someone who has already gone through the process and now he is a permanent resident. So in today's video, I invited my friend Akash, who is residing in Quebec right now, and he's gone through all of the process. So we will discuss all your questions. Without any delay, let's get started. So before we start the conversation, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Myself, Akash Sharma. I'm an aerospace graduate from Concordia University here in Montreal, and currently I'm a mechanical design engineer for a Quebec-based company called LumenWorks for the past 2 years. And very recently, I have become a permanent resident of Canada.
So Akash, the first question is that what's the general process for the permanent residency? Maybe there are different types of classes that you can explain us. And what are the general documents that are required to apply for the permanent residency?
Permanent residency, there are through express entry, there are 3 categories: federal skilled worker, federal skilled trade, and Canadian experience class. And that's the one which I went through for the PR process, and I believe that's the one we're going to talk about. So in Canadian experience class, there are certain requirements or eligibility criteria. I'm going to talk a bit about those in the beginning, and then we're going to explain a bit more for further understanding of our audience. So the first eligibility criteria is going to be the language ability. Then you need to have a certain score in language, in English, 4 modules: speaking, listening, writing, and reading. Then the second one is at least 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada within the last 3 years before you apply for the PR. These 2 are the eligibility criteria. Let's talk a bit in detail about those. So the first one, the language ability. The language ability, like I said again before, 4 modules: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. You need to get a certain score to be eligible for the express entry. And there are 2 tests for this. One is IELTS general module, and one is CELPIP. Many people say IELTS is easier. Sometimes they say the other way around. So it's not a proven fact which one is easier, but mostly people give whichever they can get the slot sooner or later. And there's a CLB level, Canadian level benchmark for the language, and I believe it's at least 7 for jobs with an NOCA. I'll talk more about NOC when we talk about skilled work experience. And then it's 5 if the level is B. And the better the score you get in IELTS or CELPIP, the more is going to be the score you get for being eligible for PR. And recently, I believe there has been a change. If you are proficient in French, you get additional points, maybe about 50 points you get in the express entry, which can be a huge boost for some people who have very good knowledge of French. But for that, I believe you need to show a test certificate like CELPIP and IELTS. For English, there is TFAC for French, and you need to have at least B2 level of proficiency to get those mentioned 50 points. And now let's talk about the skilled work experience. The 1 year skilled work experience, it can be in 3 classifications of the jobs. One is level 0, which is basically managerial positions. Then it's level A. Those are professional occupations like engineering, accountancy. And then it's level B, which are mostly technical jobs like working in a call center or working as a technician in a factory or a production worker, stuff like that. And there are 3 ways to attain that 1 year of skilled work experience. First one, you work full-time for 1 year for just one organization. You work 12 months and you are eligible for that. Or you have multiple jobs full-time, like it was in my case. I had my full-time internship for 8 months. Then I switched companies and I was working for another. I'm still working at the same company, but the first 4 months and the 8 months of internship accumulated together, it made 1 year of work experience, and that's why I was eligible. And then you can also work part-time, but then it's going to be twice the duration. So it's like you can work part-time, but it's going to be for 24 months and you can still be eligible, given that it's a skilled work experience. That's the only condition. So one important thing in this one I would like to tell is they do not count more than 30 hours per week. Like most of the full-time jobs are 40 hours per week. And I myself had this doubt, like, okay, if for my internship, if you can apply just based on the 8 months. No, it's not like that. It needs to be 1 year or like 12 months 30 hours minimum per week. That's the minimum criteria. Otherwise, we are not eligible. And one thing I would like to mention is if you're self-employed or if you have gained experience while being a full-time student, it will not count. That does not go with the eligibility criteria. It needs to be on your work permit. So after this, there's a tool called CRS, Comprehensive Ranking System, and each candidate is ranked on certain criterias: their age, their language abilities, their work experience, and other skill sets. So once you are eligible and you have certain things which are required, we fill out the CRS, we see how much score you have, and then you're going to submit your profile in the express entry pool. It's called express entry pool. You submit the profile and then you wait. And so after that, the CIC or the government, they rank each candidate based on the score they have, based on the score they received. And from time to time, say 2 weeks or a month, they do draws in which invitations are sent to people if your score is more than the cutoff score mentioned. And if your score is same as the cutoff score mentioned, then there's a certain date preceding to the invitations. For those who have applied before that date, they're going to get it. Otherwise, like let's just say there are two people, both have the same score as the cutoff score, but someone applied before a certain date or someone applied after. So the one who applied after, they will not get the invite. The one who did before, they're going to get it. That's how they prioritize the people who have the same score as the cutoff score. But if the score is more than it, no worries, you're going to get an invite for sure. Within up to 24 hours max it takes, and you receive an email and a notification in your CIC account. So,
and Akash, I have some follow-up questions to whatever you have just explained. So the first thing that I want to know is about your internship experience. So were there any conditions in your internship that it was considered while applying for a permanent residency? So, I mean, if some candidates or some students, they are getting an internship in a company. So what are the things that they should keep in mind, or what are the things that the company should provide them for that internship experience to be eligible?
So an internship, if it's a skilled work experience, that is enough. But the only thing is it needs to be on your work permit. Like I said before, like my internship experience was on my work permit, not on the co-op work permit. And it was full-time and meeting all the other criteria. So that is enough. While applying for the permanent residency, you just need a document, which I'm going to tell which documents are needed for the express entry once you get the invite. So you just need to get an experience letter from your employer, which mentions from when you are working for that company or you were working for that company and how many hours you were working, and a layout of your responsibilities along with salary too. Yeah, salary, it's needed for CIC at least. But along with it, if you also give your pay stubs just as a proof of income, like you were being paid, it was a paid work opportunity. That's what many people do. I did that too. So that is a good thing. Regarding the other documents, once you get an invite, you get a certain number of days. I think it's 60. Last year when I applied, they made it 90, but that time COVID was on its peak and everything was getting pushed. It was so much delay, so many applications got stuck and piled up. So that was that. The documents which are needed is, like I said, the experience letter. You need the language test results. You need the medical certificate. You need the police clearance certificate. For police clearance certificate, I would like to mention it is needed definitely from the country of your citizenship. That is needed for sure. Some people get the Canadian police clearance also, some don't, and it's not mandatory. If you want to get it done, you can get it done. If you skip it, that is also fine. If CIC wants it, they're going to ask you specifically. It has happened with some of the people I know. They specifically ask for it. Then at that time, you have no choice. You have to get the Canadian police clearance done too. A digital photo, your passport, and the travel document, that is work permit, and all the visa stamps, everything in the passport should be provided to the CIC, and I believe that's that.
And Akash, are there any funds that we need to show while we are applying for the permanent residency?
So funds are not needed to show if you're applying through CEC. You do not need to show the funds if you're applying through CEC. You just have to draft a letter, and there you can say, since you're applying through Canadian Experience Class, you do not have to show the funds. Some people still upload the bank statements, totally an individual choice, but even if you don't, it's not a problem because you do not need the funds to be shown if you're applying through CEC.
And Akash, if we talk specifically about working in a Quebec-based company, so is that experience considered while we apply apply for the express entry? So I mean, if they're residing outside of Quebec but their company is Quebec based and they are working remotely.
Yes, you are eligible because when you are submitting the application for permanent residency, what matters at the time is which address you are giving when submitting the application. And as long as the address is outside of Quebec, it's fine. Even if your employer is Quebec based, it's not a problem.
And Akash, one final question that's about applying a permanent residency while staying in Quebec. So I have heard that there's something called intent to apply. So when you were applying, your company is Quebec based, right? So you might have researched about this option too. So can you please tell us something about that? So what are the conditions for that and what we need to do?
Well, if you're applying while you are in Quebec, first of all, I would say I will not recommend it based on my experience and based on the stories I've heard about people I know or further hearsay. So here's what happens when you are applying for express entry and it says that specifically it asks you where you intend to reside. And if you say Quebec, it won't let you proceed ahead because for Quebec, there's a separate system called CSQ. That's a totally different thing. Many people while staying in Quebec have gone for the express entry program. There's a workaround for that. So that's what many people done and will keep doing. So you can get the ITA, invitation to apply, while being still in Quebec. Once you get the ITA, you have some number of days to collect all the documents and upload the documents. While submitting that address, you give an address outside of Quebec, but sometimes if you're still in Quebec and you give the address of Quebec, then you need to mention something intent to move. Okay. So it's like you need to show the government that once you receive the PR, permanent residence approval, you will leave Quebec. Before it used to be quite simple, but over the last few years, the government has made some stringent policies. Like sometimes if they are not satisfied with the explanation provided by the person, you are bound to get a query, and which means you need to validate your claims of you're going to leave Quebec. Now there are some ways to do it. While you are submitting the experience letter, you can either get it written from your company that either you will be shifted in a different province, in an office of a different province, or you will be transferred once the PR comes. Another thing which is very handful at the moment is having a residential lease in your name. That is a very good proof if you get a query or if you have a valid job offer from any province outside Quebec. So these three things should be enough in case you get a query to prove your intent to move out of Quebec. But again, I would recommend to not let things get at this point. It's better if you give the address outside of Quebec during the application. It is much simpler. And things I have seen myself and from others' perspective, applications with intent to move have taken longer time than the applications outside of Quebec. Like for express entry, they say it's 6 to 8 months is the general timeline for since you applied till you get the approval for the PR. But for intent to move, almost been at least 10 months to 1 year. Mine was 14 months, but that time it was COVID. It was the peak of COVID when I applied. So things were very different then. Now things have gotten better, much better, thankfully. But still, I would recommend to rather move than apply. Many people do that. Or while being in Quebec, apply, but give a different address, not of Quebec. That will be my best advice for people who aspire to apply for the express entry.
Well, I guess that's it for our today's talk, Akash. Thanks a lot for sharing your valuable experience. It has given me a lot of idea, like what are the things that I need to do for my permanent residency, and also what are the documents that I need and what's the complete process. Thanks a lot for giving us a great overview of the complete process. So guys, this was our today's video about applying permanent residency in Canada. I hope this video has helped you a lot, and please make sure to like the video and subscribe the channel, and make sure to comment down what type of videos would you like me to make in the future. See you in the next video. Till then, stay safe.